Okay. Cool. First ever office hours. We are live streaming. And yep, looks like everything's going out. So, no one in the waiting room though. That's fine. So, in the meantime, what we shall do, um, obviously, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them into the live chat. The next office hours will be on the first Tuesday, of October, which is October 2nd. And this will obviously be available as a replay, and it'll be going out as the podcast for next week, in fact. So, with that in mind, until we get some folks that jump in and give us some questions, I've got one here. Oh, no, already answered that one. Hang on. Format, insert. Here we go. Okay. So, here we go. How long, this is from Ilona Beck of Fresno, California. How long does it take you to narrate an audiobook? It's something that I'm interested in, but it seems like it would take a lot of time to read the entire book, then record it, and then all of the other stuff you need to do. Do you have to do all of that? It's a really good question, and it's one I get asked a lot, actually. So let's kind of answer it in reverse. Do you have to do all that? Kind of, a little bit. Do you have to record it? Yes. Do you need to do quality assurance, which is basically proofing it, making sure that you've said all the words correctly, that you haven't skipped anything? It depends. And going in reverse again, do you have to read the entire book prior to you narrating it? Not necessarily. So, recording it, yes, that's going to take you a lot of time. That's just how it is. I'm in the midst of an audiobook right now that is going to be the longest one I've ever narrated. And when it's all said and done, it will be about 25 hours. I started it. I started it about halfway through October, through August. So I've already been working on it for two-ish weeks, and I only just the other day got about halfway through it. I anticipate I'll finish next week. I did take a couple days off from recording so that I could. I'm sure that music is still playing. I did take a couple of days off a week or so ago, so that way I could record a real quick audiobook project and knock it out. And that was actually something, that was a choice I made, because it was like, this is going to take me the better part of a month to record. And at a certain point, I need to pay the bills. So I did one that I could knock out in about 4 days. Did that, back to this one, because it's not really going to affect ultimately when I was going to get paid in September at some point anyway. So yeah, so that's gonna be 25 hours. But all in, man, it's probably gonna take me closer to 40 hours in the booth, maybe 45 hours in the booth total, to actually get the whole thing recorded. So I see we do have someone that's watching. If you have any voiceover questions, by all means, put them into the chat. I'll be glad to answer your questions. So it is time consuming. So if you're doing audiobooks, it is a time consuming thing. It's going to take you a long time to do that. There's just no other way around it. There's things you can do to make it go more quickly. Part of that's just being better at it, just practicing, and that way you're making fewer mistakes. That can definitely help it go faster. If you have to do quality assurance, using something like Positron can absolutely make that go faster. Absolutely. That saved me probably the most amount of time out of anything that I've done, because now I don't have to listen to the entire book, the entire audiobook, in order to do my own quality assurance, in which case I was still going to miss things, because I can only pay attention that closely for so long before I'm just going to miss something. So Positron, absolutely. That can save a ton of time. That probably cut my time in about half, I would say, thereabouts. Yeah, so that can definitely be. Now, do I have to do that every time? And let's say you don't use Positron or some other service that will allow you to that'll do the QA for you. And let's assume you're not outsourcing it. Do you have to do it? Do you have to do quality assurance? It depends. It depends on where you got the job. So when I do work through ACX, the answer is yes, I need to do the quality assurance. That is on me to make sure that I'm submitting the files properly. When I work for Tantor or Recorded Books Media, which are Tantor is a part of Recorded Books, and they when I work for them, no, I don't have to do quality assurance. They have someone who goes through and proofs, and then they send me a report and they tell me the lines I need to re-record, and that's really nice, not having to do that I can just submit and be done with it. So it depends. It depends on the situation. Do you have to read the entire book prior to you recording? That, again, is an it depends. I've talked about this before. I cold read. So basically what that means is I get the file, I open up the manuscript, and I start narrating. Now, there's things I do ahead of time. I want to have an idea of what the overall mood and tone of the book are. I want to know, are there any notes from the author about how certain characters should sound, if there's anything like that. So I want to get all that out of the way so I'm not guessing. Oh, here's one. Do you use Audacity or another DAW to do editing? I use Audacity. It's a good question. I use Audacity. It's free, so the price is right for me, and I think it really does everything that you need it to do. There's not a lot on the production end of things that we as voice actors need to do. We basically just need to lay our voice down on a track, and then we send it off. And yeah, there's really not a lot that we really need to do. So I find that Audacity works the best for that. I tried using Reaper. I was not terribly familiar with the interface, and so that I found that to be a challenge for myself. And I just found it was too much car. For what I was doing, I don't need it. I'm not needing to record multiple takes to a point where I need to keep them super organized for projects, because I'm not managing entire projects, and I'm not doing looping, where I have to do the voice match, where I have to match the timing. I was actually up at Edge the other week doing some looping work, but I don't do that at my home studio right now, so I don't need something like shoot. What is the name of the thing? I'm drawing a complete blank on it. Pro Tools, which does have the ability to play video and allow you to sync up, so you might need it for that. Yeah, but I don't need it for most of the stuff that I do. So I just use it. But if you're familiar with another DAW, go ahead and use it. Another question: Is this Kelsey? I have to ask. Do you have resources for figuring out how to properly EQ a voiceover? No. For the most part, what I have found is that we don't, again, going back to the previous thing, we don't need to do much. For the most part, they want raw. Hi. thought so. For the most part, no, we don't really. I haven't had the need to do that. I need to adjust the levels. Is it too loud or too quiet? Because usually what I do is when I record, I have my level set for how I want to record, and then if it's too quiet, which it usually is because I do have it gained down just a little bit, then I will bring the gain up to raise the volume, and then I can actually, the parts where it's too loud, I can actually just dip it down there. But other than that, I really don't do anything to my audio. 99.9% of the time, they just want it raw. They're going to do all the EQ on their end. I have not had a client that has asked me to EQ anything yet. So not a lot that we really need to do on that front. Now, when I do audiobooks, that actually does get some EQ applied to it because of the mastering process. If I'm the one that's uploading it to ACX, if I'm doing something for Tantor or for RCM, then no, I just send them the raw audio. They take care of everything. For the stuff that I upload directly to ACX when I'm working directly with the author, that stuff, yeah, there's a little bit of EQ, but Audacity actually has it in there. It actually has the some of the EQ settings already in there, and I think I have it set for when I master the tracks to low roll off for voice, so that way it's doing what it does. I will freely admit that I am kind of a dummy when it comes to that stuff. There are people who are way more versed if you need to do that, but like I said, don't really need to do it. We have an easy job. We just have to make noises with our face and say the words that someone else tells us to say, and we let someone else take care of all the other stuff. Yeah. I hope that helps. I hope that answers the question. Yes. And to finish the thought from before, I was talking about cold reading. Cold reading, yeah, that's just it. Some people can cold read, some people can't, or they don't have the skill, I'll say. So if you're not someone who has the skill or has not developed the skill of cold reading, then yeah, you might need to read. You're going to need to read ahead a chapter or two so you can make the notes that you want to make, or at least be familiar enough so that way you know how you want to deliver it. For cold reading, I answered that on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and my answer to that was just practice. Practice. First of all, just read constantly. Just consume. That's what I did. I have been reading since I've been 5-ish, and I just read constantly when I was a kid. I still do read. Another question. Here we go. Do you have other sources for finding audiobook projects besides ACX? Yes. I get production work through, or narration work through Tantor Audio, which is one of the bigger producers, and Recorded Books Media, which is actually their parent company. And you can go to other production companies. That's another place to go. The production companies have a higher pay rate, which is nice. There's a lot less that you need to do. You just send them the WAV files and they take care of everything else. Yeah, and actually, let me reach out to you, Kelsey. So I'm going to actually introduce you to the casting director over at Recorded Books, over at RBM. He and I actually went to middle school together and then reconnected through a mutual acquaintance, 20 some odd years later, 25 years later. But let me see if I can make an introduction for you, because I am aware of the stuff that you have done, so I can freely do that. Yeah, I'm going to do that when we wrap this up here. So, but good question. Yes, other sources. ACX is the big one, though. Honestly, and unless you get in with a production studio, ACX is the best place to cut your teeth. It's a hit or miss thing. It can be great. It can be not great. Most of the time, I found it to be really good. Most of them, I've been very, very fortunate on that front. So, cool. No problem. Awesome. And you can see in the bug in the corner there, that I am doing the Intro to Audiobooks webinar for Edge Studio next month. So they don't have the site up for that yet, so I don't have a link for that, but that is absolutely something you can check out. And yeah, that wraps it up for September office hours. So Kelsey, thanks for asking your questions. And yeah, you can always hit me up on the socials if you have any questions. The podcast is on Spotify, so you can check that out. Voiceover Q or VO Q&A. If you basically do a search for my name, Brian Wiggins, I think it should come up. VO Q&A. There it is, right there. And yeah, we'll do office hours on October 2nd at 3 o'clock. So until then,